I'm going to increase the value of the second input for position, as this is the vertical positioning. This will allow us to keep the text perfectly centered horizontally. Remember, you can type in a value here to go a bit faster, or just click inside and use the arrow key up to move it as well. Everything is looking pretty good so far. If you have a logo, we can add it in as an image source. So in an image source, find the file you want to use as your logo. Now hit Ctrl+D again, right click the source and use Edit Transform. We'll decrease the second position value since we want our logo to go up this time. Feel free to play around with alignments and positioning to make your scene unique to your own channel. I'm actually going to click some of these sources and use the down arrow to nudge it down just a bit. And this will keep it centered horizontally as well. We'll cover customizing colors towards the end of this video. Let's move.
side, mand. Jeg er i gang med at arbejde. Det er bedre, hvis det var ikke var så stort. Nu lægger jeg kraftedeme, mand. Jeg gider ikke sige det en gang til.
Move on to our gaming scene. I'm going to add a scene and name it gaming. First, I'm going to add a game capture and leave it at its default name. Next, since my game is already in borderless window mode, I'm going to uncheck capture any full screen application and select CSGO in my window dropdown. I'll leave the settings at their default and hit OK. Let's add a webcam into our design. For this, it will be a video capture device and name it webcam-gaming. After I make sure this device is set to my webcam, I can then set up some additional settings. You can leave your resolution and settings at your default values, but I'm going to change my resolution/FPS type to custom and set my resolution to 864 by 480. I know my webcam won't be very big, so there's no need to have the resolution any higher. Once the camera is added into my scene, I can drag it to where I'd like and use the corners of the red bounding box to scale it down to the size that I want as well. Let's now add in an image overlay. With the new image source, let's name it overlay. Choose the file you'd like to use as your overlay and hit OK. We can simply drag this image to the bottom since that's where I'd like mine. Again, if you need a different overlay design, check out the overlay maker on the Nerd or Die website. We also have a video detailing how to use it, which will be linked in the description as well. What if we want a custom size, shape, and color for a webcam frame? Honestly, the best way is to have a shape designed and edited in Photoshop or similar, but don't worry, we can make something work. Remember that big white rectangle I downloaded? Well, we can use scaling and filters to make it a border for our webcam. Let's add in another image source, name it webcam back, select the white rectangle file and hit OK. We'll see this image take up the entire screen. Let's first reposition it in our sources panel to be under our webcam. Next, let's resize it to give the top and bottom of our webcam a nice border. It might take a bit of adjustment to make sure the top and bottom sides are even. Remember, you can also use the arrow keys to reposition it. You'll notice that the border is too big on one of the sides of the webcam, so we need to crop that part out a bit that's just a bit too big. We can do this in a few ways. The easiest way is to simply move the source a bit to the side with the arrow keys or by clicking and dragging it in that direction. We can basically nudge it out of the preview window until we get a nice even border. If you need to, cropping this image might work best, depending on where you position your webcam. I noticed that the color isn't something that I like. Let's change that with some filters. Right-click the source and go to Filters. First, let's add a color correction filter. Choose Select Color, and you can pick any color here, or we can hit Pick Screen Color. With Pick Screen Color active, we can mouse over the color from your overlay that you'd like to choose with our crosshairs, and then click when we get the color we'd like to use. I'll drop this blue from the overlay. If you missed our video about filters, go back and check it out. This process will make a lot more sense. Something that I want to quickly mention is that OBS Studio version 0.14 and above will have the ability to hold Alt and then drag the sides of our bounding boxes of any source to crop them. The version that I have doesn't have that just yet. You can check the version in the top of OBS Studio. This is definitely the easiest way to crop sources. In a future video, we'll cover how to add donation, follower, and alert text in our scenes, but for now, let's move on to what I call the in-between scene. I've been using this term for a long time, and it basically means a scene that I'd use between games. So if you're just talking to chat or waiting in a queue, this scene is what you could use. Let's make a new scene called In Between. First, I'm going to add in a background video. This time, I'm going to choose the version without particles, but pick whatever looping video that you'd like. Next, I'm going to add an image I downloaded from nerdordie.com, the in-between image. Let's add a color correction filter on top of this image to choose a color that we like. I'm a fan of blue, so I'll choose one that I like and go with that. Before we continue, let's take a look at how our scene looks in full resolution. I'm going to right-click the preview area, go to Full Screen Projector Preview, and then select the display I want to view this on. We'll see what our scene looks like in full screen. Pretty solid so far, but let's add a couple of elements into this. Right-click and go to Close to leave this mode, or just hit Escape. Next, I'm going to add my webcam back in. Since we already used this in another scene, I'll just add a video capture device and select Add Existing and choose Webcam. Then hit OK. I'm going to move it around and do my best to line it up with one of these boxes here on the left. If you're having trouble getting the source exactly where you want it, don't forget you can use the Edit Transform box to use more precise values. You can use cropping here if needed as well. Let's do the same thing with our game capture. Add in the existing source and scale it to where we need it. We want it to be just inside of this blue box. After I position this where I feel is good, I'm then going to click and drag the in-between image on top of my scene. The boxes will now cover parts of the sources, and this will help create a nice frame as well. With that position, we're done for now with this scene. The middle area is intended for Twitch chat. This top right area is for our recent supporters, such as latest follower, top tip or donation, and recent tip. We haven't covered how to add those things in yet, but we will be in the next video. So make sure to subscribe to learn how to do that. We also have a spot for a music ticker as well. If we wanted to add a logo below the ticker or a message with a text source,